Hi, it's Brendon Payne with Century 21 Expert Advisors here in Charleston, and I wanted to dive in today to a topic that's coming up a lot with the sellers that I'm talking to, and it has to do with what do you do in order to maximize your value before you put your home on the market? What upgrades, what improvements, what types of things do you need to think about doing before you put your home out there and begin marketing it for sale? And the reason this is so important is because there is a huge opportunity before you put the home on the market to really hit it the ground running, maximize what you can get out of it, and maximize the time on market, meaning sell it as quickly as you can, but still get top dollar for the property. There's also some mistakes that sellers sometimes make, and that's what we want to avoid. We don't want to over-improve the home, and we don't want to do things that aren't going to add any value, either in dollars that we're going to get when we sell it, or in removing time that it's on the market by creating a lot of demand. So let's talk first about how did we end up here? How is this so important now? And over the last few years, there's a term that I've kind of adopted, and it's not original. It's really just a sign of the times. If you watch any type of network television or all the specials that are out there, you have heard the term HGTV. Well, there is an HGTV effect in selling homes right now. And what I mean by that is everyone, buyers and sellers, if they are watching those shows, they're being influenced, and they're being influenced in a couple of different ways. So imagine as you're watching these shows, the flip shows, the the $1 million real estate agent, all of those different things, they're all having an influence. And typically, they're either influencing people where they believe that every single home that sells is in top-notch, brand new, all updated, all the counters, all the cabinets, all the flooring, everything is like brand new, the newest trends. And that's just simply not true. The other side of the coin, though, is people are influenced thinking that every person that's purchasing a property right now is going in and completely gutting it and just making all these changes. Then they're basically getting it ready as if they were going to flip it. And we know that that's not true. But if you're influenced by those, then you could be potentially making mistakes when you put your property on the market. So let's kind of dispel some of those myths that it's an easy answer across the board and look at what you really need to do. Because when sellers go to sell their home, one of the mistakes I think that they're making is they're asking inexperienced people, or sometimes inexperienced agents, to actually guide them on what it's going to take to sell for maximum value in their property. And that can be a huge issue when it comes to adding time on the market where you're not getting offers, or making improvements that you don't get a return for. So there's three things that we really want to identify, and these are the three factors that are going to determine what you should do to your home before you put it on the market. Number one, it's identifying who is the buyer audience for the property. Now, why is that important? Think about it this way. There's a bunch of different types of people that could be buying your home, depending on what it is. If it's an investor that's out there purchasing the home, then understand that some of the bigger items that you might think are a really big deal, say a roof or replacing flooring or removing wallpaper and stuff like that, that might not be that big a deal to the investor. If they're going to turn around and flip the property, or they're going to turn around and put a tenant right back into the home, then some of those bigger improvements that the general consumer that's buying it might care a lot about, the investor might not need to have them done right away. And think about it this way. If your audience is going to be somebody that is a first-time home buyer, they might be buying in a community where their expectation is everything is done and everything is up to snuff. And in fact, you might be competing with new construction that's bringing them a brand new home with all the bells and whistles, and now you're competing with that new type of buyer, that new first-time home buyer that's coming into your neighborhood. So identifying the type of buyer becomes really, really important, and that's going to influence what you should do once you know who's the most likely buyer for the property. Number two is identifying anything that's going to detract from the salability of the property, meaning when people come in there, is there anything that they're seeing that they're like, wow, that's a stopper? That the home would work for me, the neighborhood would work for me, but that one thing I can't deal with. Some examples of that. imagine if you are in a community where it's primarily going to be, younger families, or it's a very family-oriented neighborhood. So when closing takes place, if that family has to come in and you have 25-year-old carpet and there's wallpaper all throughout and nothing's been upgraded, then at that point the buyers may look and say, I love this community, I love the neighborhood, I really like the curb appeal of the home, but I can't move in and turn around and then spend 2 months rehabbing this home. Even though the home may work for them and you go, boy, we priced it correctly, that home may not work for that buyer because they may not have time to upend everything once they close. They need to close and get back into their normal routine of life. On the flip side, if you are in a property that's going to be maybe more of a mature buyer, one that has more assets than a young family, then they may look at that and say, you know what, we can take a project like this on. We can close. Potentially they're buying cash, so they don't have to worry about the money that they're putting out at the closing and then turn around and spending more money once that property's sold. So they can actually be able to purchase the property, pay a fair price, and then have money left over to make the repairs that they want. So you can see the same home, different type of buyer, different types of things that may actually detract from that property working for that potential buyer. Okay, so we only want to address things that are probably going to really detract from the salability or really increase the demand once they're done. And the last item that I want to talk about has to do with making sure that you position yourself to get at minimum a dollar for dollar return. This is where people get in a lot of trouble. If you're making improvements primarily based on what you're seeing on TV or you think that the buyer wants, be very cautious, because there's a lot of times where the things that we think are going to be really good for the home, the buyer might not give you a lot of credit for. And at bare minimum, you want to be able to have at least a dollar for dollar return. Where you invest $10,000, you should be able to get $10,000 more than you would have if you just put the home on the market without the improvements. That's a must. If that's not the case, then at bare minimum, the improvements that you make have to impact the time that it's on the market. So if you think, gosh, some of the things should be done, if not, it could be out there 4 or 5 months, and you're moving and you really need to be moved in 30 or 60 days, then that extra couple of months that you own the property is going to cost dollars. So at that point, if you can improve the time that it's going to be able to get sold and it's going to sell a little quicker, then maybe that makes sense. But it's important that you really analyze and understand, am I getting a dollar for dollar return? The other part of this is, right now, if you're going to go out and pay contractors to do work, improvement type things, not additions and stuff like that, but if you're going to pay them to do small rehab and remodel projects, it is really difficult to get a dollar for dollar return on that stuff. Just think about it. If you're paying retail cost and you don't have a connection through your agent or through you of somebody who can get it done at a better value than the retail buyer can, then what's the difference in you doing it and paying retail or the new buyer coming in and they pay retail? There's not going to be a lot of room for a spread there where you can actually make more than you're spending. And if you're spending the same amount that you think you're going to get a return, you're in that real dangerous period where you could come out losing on it. So make sure that you understand these 3 factors are really what you need to analyze. First, who's the ideal buyer for the property and what types of things are they going to look for? Do you have to adjust anything with your home to appeal to them? Number 2 is make sure that you address anything that is going to actually detract from the sale. Don't just do things to make it look like the greatest house out there, because you might not get credit for it depending on who the buyer is. And then third, make sure that you utilize your resources, or better yet, hire an agent or consult with an agent ahead of time so that you can have some value built into the repairs, the upgrades, and the updates that you do because of their connections and their experience in the business. If I can help you out with anything on this front or anything real estate related here, please give me a call. I appreciate you watching this video and look forward to talking with you soon. Thanks.